Hello students of year 11. Today's lesson is going to be on Unit 1 in your Pupils book. And I'm going to teach you today on how to write a letter. Letter writing is important. You will be getting a letter for your exam too. Apart from your exam, you should know how to write both informal and formal letters. Today we'll be discussing informal letters. Informal letters are usually written to a writer's close acquaintances. That means a writer's friends, family and relatives. Now when you write an informal letter, you have to have a casual and personal tone. Casual language is usually used when you're writing an informal letter. And some of these letters may have an emotional undertone. Informal letters are used for personal communication. So there is no specific format. Now let's look at page 9 in your Pupils book. Activity 10. Let's read it together, shall we? 18 Lake Drive, Pannipitiya, 27th January 2016. Dear Kalani, how are you? I hope you're doing fine. Thank you very much for your letter and the birthday card. I was waiting for a letter from you when the postman delivered it. It's a lovely card made out of natural flowers, leaves, which we all admired. As you mentioned in your letter, I'm a year older now. I totally agree that we have to think seriously and plan our future. We have to take the responsibility of our own lives. Kalani, I will tell you how I celebrated my birthday. On my birthday, I donated some books to the local library. My parents said that it was a very thoughtful deed. My father had visited the library a week before he organized this for me. We were given a list of books that they needed. In fact, the librarian had been waiting for a long time to get those books for the library. We were happy to donate some of them. I went with my mother to purchase the books. On my birthday, we went to church in the morning and then delivered the books to the library. I felt happy as I did something useful on my birthday this year. You know what? My brother has already made similar plans for his birthday too. So Kalani, how are things going on for you? Hope you have a fantastic time in Norelia. Hope to hear from you soon. Give my regards to your parents. Best wishes, Farah. Now based on what we just read, let's look at the basic format used by Farah when she wrote this letter. To begin with, Farah has started her letter by writing an address. We usually write an address so that our close relatives and friends can reply back with ease. You need to remember to write your address on the top left corner of your letter. Don't forget to include all those punctuation marks. You would also notice that along with the address, you have to write the date. And that too is written on the top left corner of your letter, underneath your address. Next, you need to include a suitable greeting. Farah has written, Dear Kalani. The general rule is, if it is to a person you know who is close to your same age, you will address them by their first name. If you are writing a letter to your mother, you can write, Dear Amma. And if you're addressing the letter to an older person, you can refer to them by their surname, like Dear Mrs. Perera. And now we begin writing the actual letter. The introductory paragraph sets the tone for the whole letter. You might begin by asking the recipient about his or her well-being. Farah in her letter asks, How are you? Or you may say that you hope the letter finds him or her in good health and great spirits. In the letter, Farah also says, I hope you're doing fine. Always remember, the opening of informal letters should be casual and comforting. In this first paragraph, Farah also thanks Kalani for her letter and birthday card, and she even describes what the card looks like. In paragraph 2, Farah briefly acknowledges what Kalani had mentioned in her letter too. We have obviously not read Kalani's letter to Farah, but we can get an idea of it when she says, I totally agree that we have to think seriously and plan our future. In the third paragraph, Farah uses the past tense to describe all what she did on her birthday. She donated some books to the local library, and we are told that her father organized everything the week before with the library. We also read that she went with her mother to buy the books. We are told that she went to church in the morning and later on how she delivered her books to the library. She also talks about how she felt on this day. She says she felt happy. You would notice that all the verbs in past tense are given in bold in the text that is in your pupil's book. That is to show that the action has already taken place in the past. Always remember that when you write a letter about something that has already taken place, you need to use the past tense. You can read more about the past tense on page 12 in your pupil's book. We will discuss the past tense in another lesson, so don't worry. You would also notice that Farah uses a lot of questions. This would make the reader want to reply to her letter. It may be somewhat similar to WhatsApp messages that you send to your friends. Don't you expect replies to questions you send on WhatsApp or email? Here, Farah uses these questions. Let's have a look. How are you? So, Kalani, how are things going on for you? Don't these questions make the tone very informal? Also, look at this question. You know what? That's very informal and perfect for this type of letter. You also need to consider how you plan on ending your letter. You can say best wishes, like what Farah has said. You can also simply sign off as your friend or yours truly. It's up to you. In an informal letter, you can sign off in any way that is easiest for you. Let's now look at page 12 in your pupil's book. Turn to activity 12. Write a letter to one of your friends describing a good deed you have done. They have given some guidelines too. Remember, if guidelines are given, you have to refer to them in your answer. The first guideline focuses on your good deed. The second guideline expects you to tell us when and where this good deed was done. The third point wants you to elaborate on who helped you. And lastly, you're expected to tell your friend how you felt. Now let's look at a letter that I wrote that follows all these guidelines. I wrote a letter to my best friend Sanisha. 12 Koswatha Road, Navala, 22nd June 2020. Dear Sanisha, how are you doing? I hope everything is okay over there. How is the weather in Kandy? Thank you so much for your letter. It was so nice to know how you spent your holidays with your family. Your brother Kanan seems very naughty. You're right about keeping busy. I really hate laziness and I always try to stay active and busy. We have to make use of all the time we have. We certainly won't get it back. I wanted to write and tell you about what I did over the last 2 weeks of my holidays. 3 weeks ago, I came across some of my old reading books. There were some great stories. I then had a bright idea. I decided to use these books to help little children in my village read. The task seemed a very big deal, but when I spoke to my parents about it, they loved the idea. I read them a book every day, and I started a little lending library so that these kids could borrow a book, read it, and return it when they are done. It was so nice to see all those young happy faces coming to my home to read every morning. I felt so happy that I could give back to society. The feeling you get when you do something good is simply inexplicable. Enough about me. How are you, Sanisha? Please let me know of anything that you have been up to. And please give my regards to Auntie and Uncle and your sweet brother Kanan. I am looking forward to hearing from you soon. Best wishes, Sonia. You would have noticed that the letter follows the same format that was presented at the beginning of the lesson. Also note how when writing the letter, I have considered the key phrase in the question. That is, to describe a good deed that I have done. Well, if you're attempting a question like this, you can maybe think about the smaller good deeds that you do at home, like feeding a homeless person, or maybe giving away an extra pair of shoes or some clothes. Or you can start with the simpler things like helping your friend with his or her homework. Now let's quickly recap the format that we would use to write an informal letter. Don't forget to write the address followed by the date below it. Then write your salutation. It could be Dear Amma, Dear Archie, Dear Prasanna, anything goes. Then work on the body of the paragraph. The guidelines given in your question should help you. Remember, it's a point per paragraph. Include some complimentary lines and sign off thereafter. It's that easy. Now look at where in your O-level paper such a question will come. So there is a question similar to the one we did just now, and it is found in paper 2, test 14. This question carries 10 marks. Let's look at the question, shall we? Write a letter to one of your friends describing how you celebrated Teachers' Day in your school. Use about 100 words including the following: activities done on Teachers' Day, the role you played, speeches made, how you felt about the celebration. I am sure the pictures on screen gave you some great ideas. Those pictures were taken from around the country. Now you can use those pictures and follow the guidelines and attempt the question using the format we discussed. Thank you so much for being a part of our session today. We hope that you found it useful and that you would subscribe to our channel. Our next lesson is going to be on formal writing. Have a great day.